Outro is splish splash waterfall give a dog a bone for some reason. Like,
You two are so cute.
We don't make any sense. All right. Oh,
Yes, I'm gonna scoot real close to you.
you do it. Do I look super fucking tired? Okay. Okay.
We are real tired.
I know. It is day 3 of VidCon. So,
Wakey, wakey, eggs and bacon.
Oh my gosh, this is so cool. I have the amazing Jackson Bird,
Aw.
our first guest on this channel
Ooh.
ever.
Oh my gosh, I didn't realize that.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, cool.
Yes. So I am super excited. Jack, can you tell the lovely people, if they don't know who you are, you should know who he is because he's incredible. Can you tell them just a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I make videos on my channel, Jack is Not a Bird, about my experiences as a trans guy and trying to amplify the experiences of others. They're kind of like geared towards nerdy queer and trans people.
And he is an active Harry Potter enthusiast and also just gave an amazing TED Talk that you should definitely check out. I will have the link right there.
Go.ted.com/transrespect.
Oh, there you go.
I was so stoked they gave me that URL.
So last night, Jack and I were having this conversation about trying things on. If you haven't seen my gender video, I came out as questioning my gender, and Jack and I were kind of talking about some of those things, and we ended up talking about names and pronouns and stuff like that. So I kind of want to dive in and ask Jack some questions that maybe he could help me. First of all, Jack, how did you start to try new things, names, pronouns, when you first started to question your gender?
Yeah, so name was probably the first. I mean, I, like, growing up, always had little names that I, like when I was 4, I wanted people to call me Bill because that was my favorite Power Ranger.
Oh my god, what color?
Blue, the nerd.
Yeah, with the...
Who also turned out to be gay.
Oh my god.
Of course. But yeah, when I was like in college when I started realizing that like transition was a thing, and I was like, oh my gosh, what I've been feeling my whole life has words and language and things I can do about it. And so I think I first started trying out a name because there was like a message board I found that I wanted to post on. I was like, oh, what name should I use? And I was just playing with a lot of gender neutral names.
Okay.
Because I first discovered like genderqueer and androgynous and was like, maybe that's where I am and where I fit in. And I also kind of thought, well, maybe if I am a more binary trans person, I don't know if I want to transition. That's kind of scary, but I never liked my birth name very much. So maybe I would choose a name that was gender neutral so it could work regardless if I decided to transition or not, or in what way I decided to transition.
Okay.
So that was how I started playing with names. And then I went to NYU and I started going to the LGBT Center and like the trans meetup group there, and that was where I first started using he, him pronouns.
Okay.
And seeing how that felt. Yeah.
Do you remember the first time that somebody either used a specific name or like, and how that kind of felt, or how did you start that conversation? Because I am like a little bit of an awkward being when it comes to some of this stuff. So like, we have a few friends and this was a couple months ago when I asked them to use they, them pronouns exclusively, and I was like, hey, just so you know, I kind of like they, them pronouns, so if you could use that would be cool, bye. But is there a way to kind of bring up the conversation of, hey, I'm kind of trying this on. It would be really helpful for me if you could do this, but I also might change my mind.
Yeah. So I feel like in my exploratory years, it was easier because I was only doing it in like queer trans spaces where like that was my only relationship to these people was like at a center or like a trans mentor of mine. And said mentor was very much like, I'm inviting you to a party, you're going to tell me the name and pronouns you want to use, and that's how I'm introducing you. And I was like, okay. And it was so awkward, but also so great. One of those things. But when I really was like, I'm starting, like, I know I'm going to come out, I know I'm going to transition, and I'm starting to share that with people and coworkers in my life because I was very fortunate to work at a nonprofit where everyone was chill and cool with this stuff. I'm sorry. It was still awkward though, because it was like, I think I used they, them for a little bit because I was just so scared to even tell people.
Yeah.
I knew I was like, 95% sure transitioning to male was on the horizon, but was like too scared and awkward to tell people. So I kind of started by being like, hey, I'm like playing with my gender. Can we use they, them pronouns? And they, them pronouns just did not feel right for me. But it was easier to ask for that than to ask for he, him pronouns.
Interesting.
For some reason, yeah.
Yeah. So when you started asking people to use he, him pronouns, did you encounter, like, changing that from they, them? What was that experience like? You know, because I feel like sometimes if you change your mind, some people, I don't think this is valid at all, but they kind of see it as you don't actually know yourself.
Yes. I was very nervous about that. I think I only came out to people, like, when I was still questioning and going through stuff that I knew would not think that way.
Yeah.
I kind of waited until I was very certain about things before I told people who I thought wouldn't get it and might judge me in that way.
Yeah.
Which not everyone has the privilege to be able to do that, but that's kind of how I planned out my path.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that makes sense.
Because I had a huge... That was a huge thing for me. Of just, like, I don't want to come out as questioning. I don't want to come out as, like, exploring because people are going to, like, think that I'm not valid and legitimate in my identity. It's so tough. And so we need more people like you talking about how that is valid. It is a thing. You should respect people no matter where they're at, how they identify, if it changes, if it doesn't change. Like, respect them in where they're at.
And also, I think it's important to recognize that gender can be super fluid.
Yes.
And it can also fluctuate. And, like, you might be feeling super, like, I might feel super masc one day. And, like, I really want to just embrace that. But then there are other days I might want to be a delicate little flower. And that needs to be all right.
Yeah.
Let that be okay. No. Okay, but my other thing is I feel like when people are trying on different things, names, I think, can feel like such a, to your core.
Yes.
You like, so personal. And it's so hard to pick a name.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So can you tell me a little bit about what your process was like? I know we kind of talked about it, but for everybody else.
Yeah.
Like, what your process was like trying on different names, and did you change names? And, like, when did it feel right?
Yes. So I really identify with what you just said about it feels like such a core thing.
Yeah.
And so what helped me was when I asked my mom the names that she would have named me if I had been assigned male at birth. And even though the first couple of names that she said I didn't like, I realized I wanted to go that path because even though I didn't like them, just knowing that they came from her for some reason just felt like I felt it to my core. It felt so right. It felt like it had a little more to it. That's for me personally. Not everyone's going to feel that way. And I was trying out other names that she hadn't picked. I kind of wanted to keep my initials for a while, so I tried out Luke for a while. I tried out Liam for a while.
Yeah.
And those kind of fit. Sometimes I still think like Luke or like Jake instead of Jack. I kind of like, I don't know. But at the time, they were not me. It didn't work. And I would just use them like on message boards and on Tumblr or with a couple of people who knew me to try to see how they felt. And then I was using the name Carson for a while, which was a little more gender neutral, and that's one that my mom chose. But it just didn't start, it wasn't feeling right, and I ended up, like, realizing I didn't want an androgynous name.
Yeah.
Being that I at least want to be perceived as a binary guy, I didn't want people to be like, what gender is that person? And then I tell them my name, and they're like, oh, I still don't know what gender they are.
Sure.
And that was for me personally. I didn't want that, so I wanted, all right, I want a name where when I tell people my name, they're like, okay, that is the gender that this person is.
Okay.
And the name that I, like, always kind of used for myself in my imaginary world of being a boy when I was a teenager was Jack.
Oh.
And I actually felt like I couldn't change my name to Jack because I just created this fictional character who was, like, so much better than I could ever be and so different and apart from me.
That's so interesting.
Yeah. And so when I was, like, really not feeling great about myself and, like, really in the depths of, like, dysphoria and depression, I was like, I'm not good enough for that name.
Yeah.
But then when I, like, had the big talk with my mom, I had come out to her, like, years ago, but I had the talk with, like, I'm finally going to come out to everyone else, and I'm going to transition, and this is happening. And I was like, can you just try to remember one more time if there were any other names that you might have named me? And she was like, oh, yes, I remembered the other day, Jackson. And I was like, what? I could shorten that to Jack, but, like, Jackson I also like. It sounds kind of Southern. It was perfect. So it was this moment where we were both just like, that's it, that's the name.
Oh, my God. That's so sweet.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that like warms my little heart.
But I will say, you're not gonna have that light bulb. Like, not everyone's gonna have that light bulb moment where it's perfect and it works out like that. And that was something that I was really trying to settle into. Was like, I almost don't want a name that I super love. Because if I super love it, that might mean I just love it right now. Like, it's a passing thing.
Oh, interesting.
You know, like a trend kind of thing. Like, I like this name for whatever reason right now. So it's almost like I wanted a name that I felt a little bit more neutral about, because, like, think about, you know, the name that your parents give you.
Yeah.
You don't love, you just grow into it.
Yeah,
it grows to be your name.
Yeah, it becomes a part of you because of the repetition and because of things that are associated with it and the memories that you have tied to it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. No, that makes sense. I think, like, one of my biggest things is I think there's actually a video about this on Ash's channel about gender euphoria. But I'm searching for some gender euphoria when it comes to, like, a name.
Yeah.
Because I don't know. Grace just feels super feminine to me. You know what I mean? And, like, I've met several people who's like, yeah, but I don't see it with you. And I'm like, I get that, you know. But I know that it's a name. I think the biggest thing I struggle with is that I know my mom loves it.
Oh, yeah.
And I love my mom so much.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I know that my mom loves it, but I don't know if I do.
Yeah.
But I love that my mom loves it.
Yeah.
You know, I'm searching for, like, this, like, magical moment like you had. So if you could just provide that would be great.
I'll work on it.
Yeah.
I mean, are there, like, is it something where you can ask your mom to maybe, like, choose your middle name or something? So
Maybe.
That she can still be a part of it, you can still have that connection?
Maybe. So, like I said, Grace is fine for right now, and it's all fine and whatever. But at the end of the day, I think I know that eventually I want to change. I just don't know what the change is.
Yeah.
But I don't know how to start the conversation of, like, with, like, friends. People have done it here, which I think is super cool. Or like, hey, can you just call me something different and random and see if something, like, sticks? But that's, like, the beauty of YouTube, is that it's super beautiful and everyone's wonderful, and you get to be around all these people that genuinely have your best interest at heart, and they only want to see you happy.
You mean, like, the small, like, queer YouTube community? Not just YouTube as a whole. No,
not YouTube as a whole, but the people that I surround myself at YouTube. Yeah.
So I have a friend, Liam, who's a trans guy, and when he was first coming out and trying to choose a name, he literally would go by a different name every day for, like, a couple weeks. And it was mostly, like, with his partner. He would, like, wake up in the morning and, like, tell his partner, like, this is the name of the day, and she would change it in her phone, and she would tell all of us, and we would change our phones and just call him that for the day. And then it started being, like, some of the names were lasting a couple more days.
Okay.
Longer and longer, and then it came down to, like, 2 names. And then it was Liam. I also just had his name as, like, an emoji in my phone for a while.
That's a lot of name change in the phone.
Yeah.
But, I mean,
so it was, like, his emoji and then his last name.
Yeah. But I think that that's super cool that you were able to do that for him. Because to get that type of affirmation from your friends is super cool, and I think it's something that a lot of us seek.
Yeah.
Because I think that, like, friendships, you're worried that your friendships are going to change.
Yeah.
Or you're worried that your friends are gonna do it. I know that's something that Ash really struggled with, was that friends would still use their birth name, and it would be very triggering, you know, and it would be like, oh, you don't care enough to make the change, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And it wasn't intentional, you know, and they all, like, love him, and it's all good. But it's, I think it's, like, that's what I'm worried about.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It is really tough.
Like, having an expectation and then having my little heart be crushed.
I will also, there's that, and then even when people are super cool about it, it can still sound awkward when they're doing it right, because you know they're awkward, and so it, like, reflects back on you.
Yeah.
It's like this whole
they're like,
messy ball.
So, Sebastian, like, what are you doing, Sebastian, for the day? And then you're like, I don't know, I'm just a little flower. Anyway.
I will say, I think, especially for, like, non-binary and agender people, like, initial names are really cool. Like, CJs and stuff like that.
Oh,
yeah. It's fun.
Oh, that is cool. I like that. All right, final question here. What advice would you give to those who want their friends or family to try on different names or different pronouns? How would you suggest that they start that conversation, especially if they're just questioning?
Right.
Versus, because I think it's different if you have figured out yourself and you're ready to completely come out. I think especially in the binary sense. You know what I mean? Because then you're like, no, this is who I am, and I need you to do this because it will affirm what I know to be true for my gender. But if you're questioning, you're like, I don't really know. I need to try it on to figure it out.
Well, I think the first thing is to think about who you're going to ask. Definitely try to find the people who are the most open-minded, the most supportive. If you have any queer or trans friends, they're going to be great ones. But it's not just that. It's also there might be some people in your life who like don't really know much about like queer and trans issues, but are just down and happy for you and chill about things. That might be a good person. There's also to consider, are you out to everyone about being questioning? And if you're not, there are certain types of people who have trouble switching back and forth. And so, don't ask them, one, because, like, you don't want to put the burden on them for that, but then also they might accidentally out you. That happened to me a little bit, but not in any bad ways.
Okay.
But it's like I was kind of having people like, hey, in these spaces use these pronouns and these ones don't, and people slipped up because that's human nature.
Yeah.
Some people are really, really rad and never ever slip up, so if you have any people like that, they're really good. I think just the people in your life who you think will be good at it and who are happy to support you, if you have any people like that. But to go about asking them, just try to have an open conversation with them, explain why you're asking this, why you're feeling this way, and in what cases you want them to use that name or pronouns. And I've really found that the changing the name in the phone thing really helps. It's just because like when you're texting them or whatever, you see their name.
Yeah, it's a constant kind of a thing.
Yeah, that has really seemed to be the trick to remember people's new name and pronouns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love it. All right. Oh, my other little tip is that if you want to try something on, is if you're going to get coffee or something, give a different name. Give a different name, and you want to try that on and just see, like, because they don't know you.
That used to be my, like, number one tip. I totally forgot about it. Yeah, just make sure you're not paying with card, and then your name comes up.
Oh.
So when you pay with cash for coffee.
There you go.
Yeah.
Do that. All right. All right, our outros. So we're going to go like this, like, do it like that, and then we do splish, splash, waterfall, give a dog a bone.
Okay.
All right, splish, splash, waterfall, give a dog a bone.